Captain Sarah Chen drifted through the empty corridors of Shipyard Station 7, her magnetic boots clicking on the metal floor with each step. The station had been abandoned for nearly 15 years, silently orbiting Jupiter's moon Europa. Dust particles danced in the light from her helmet's torch as she traveled deeper into the facility. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her orders were clear: inspect the outer docking bays for salvageable supplies and report back to Earth Command. But something in the station's outdated computer systems caught her attention. There was a file marked Project Prometheus, requiring security clearance she barely possessed. The file mentioned a warship. This is no ordinary warship, but a vessel constructed in secret 23 years ago during the darkest period of human-alien relations, when first contact with the Zapirian Empire turned from hopeful diplomacy to tense conflict almost overnight. Sarah's breath fogged up the visor of her helmet as she approached the sealed door of Docking Bay 12. According to the files, the bay had been permanently sealed since the official reason was structural damage caused by a meteorite impact, but the actual files told a different story. Her fingers worked the manual override panel, entering the code she'd memorized from the classified documents. After decades of silence, the massive door slid open, slowly opening to reveal a chamber beyond. What Sarah saw took her breath away. The ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest ships in Terra's current fleet. The hull was a dark gray metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, and its sides were dotted with weapon ports that bore no resemblance to conventional human design. "Holy shit," Sarah whispered into her comm. "It's real." She pushed herself out into the bay, marveling at the ship's strange appearance. It was a testament to human engineering, but it looked like nothing Earth had built before or since. The design was aggressive, even predatory. Every line and curve seemed designed for one purpose: war. Sarah accessed the tablet and reopened the classified document. The ship had been designed by Dr. Marcus Webb, the most brilliant weapons engineer in human history. The plan began after the Zapirians tacitly threatened human territorial expansion. Earth's leaders realized that human technology was centuries behind that of the Empire. Webb had a revolutionary proposal. Instead of trying to match alien technology, humanity would create something entirely different, something the aliens could never anticipate or understand. The Prometheus employed principles the Zapirians had never before encountered: quantum weaponry capable of tearing holes in space itself, adaptive artificial intelligence that learned and evolved during combat, and dimensional shielding that allowed the ship to partially escape normal spacetime. However, these plans were abruptly halted in 23-8 when diplomatic relations with the Empire suddenly improved. The Zapirians signed trade agreements and peace treaties, proclaiming cooperation and mutual benefit. Earth's leaders decided that such aggressive warships were no longer necessary. Webb protested. He declared that the Zapirians could not be trusted, and that they were simply buying time to study human weaknesses. But his warnings were ignored. The Prometheus was sealed and classified as more than top secret. Dr. Webb died 2 years later in what was officially ruled an accident. Sarah crawled along the hull of the ship, using the maintenance railings to find her way there. She found the airlock and was surprised that the security code actually worked. The ship's computer, which had been in standby mode for over 20 years, recognized her authentication. The interior of the Prometheus was just as strange as its exterior. Its hallways were wider than normal and at odd angles, as if space were warping in impossible ways. The walls were lined with displays displaying incomprehensible numbers and star charts that were painful to look at. Sarah made her way to what the ship's computer recognized as the bridge. The command center was circular, with a captain's chair in the center and workstations that looked more like alien artifacts than human technology. As she sat down, the ship's systems began to power up around her. The lights came on, and the displays showed systems waking up one by one from hibernation. The ship had been waiting for ages, ready to be activated at any moment. A holographic figure appeared before her. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and gray hair. Sarah recognized him from the file as Dr. Webb. "If you are reading this message, the situation is truly hopeless," the hologram said. "I am Dr. Marcus Webb, creator of Prometheus. If my worst fears have come true, then the Zapirian Empire has finally shown its true color." Sarah leaned forward, captivated by the long-dead scientist's words. "The Empire has been planning this for decades," Webb continued. "They had no intention of abiding by the treaty. They used this shard to observe us, identify our weaknesses, and plan their deployment. By the time their true intentions become clear, it will be too late to stop them." The hologram pointed to the bridge around him, but it was not too late. The Prometheus was the culmination of 20 years of human ingenuity. concentrated in technology the Empire could not comprehend. They believed in fighting with brute force and overwhelming numbers. They had never faced an enemy that fought with cunning and innovation. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The hologram's words felt prophetic, as if Dr. Webb could see into the future. The ship's AI was Athena, Webb explained. She was not just a computer program. She is something new, something that exists at the intersection of human creativity and quantum consciousness. She will be your partner in the coming battles. A new voice echoed across the bridge. It was synthetic yet feminine and strangely warm. Hello, Captain Chen. It's been a pleasure meeting you. Sarah nearly jumped out of her chair. Your AI Athena. Me too. Per Dr. Webb's instructions, I have been monitoring galactic communications for the past. I regret to inform you that his predictions regarding the Empire were correct. What does this mean? The main view screen came on, displaying an intercepted transmission from deep space. Sarah watched in growing horror as the Zapirian commanders discussed their plans for Earth. The peace treaty was indeed a lie. The Empire had spent 20 years positioning its forces across the galaxy, preparing a coordinated attack to crush human resistance before it could even begin. Athena reported that a massive fleet had already been mobilized. They planned to demand the immediate surrender of Earth within the next 72 hours. If humanity refused, they would demonstrate their power by destroying the Martian colony as a warning to others. Sarah's hands trembled as she processed this information. The Martian colony was home to over 2 million civilians. How many ships are in this great fleet? Approximately 8,000 ships of various classes, including 12 dreadnoughts and 47 battlecruisers. This is the largest military force the Empire has ever assembled. So what does Earth have to defend itself? Humanity's current fleet consists of about 300 ships, most of which are designed for exploration and trade, not war. With conventional tactics, Earth's defeat would be certain within hours. Sarah stared at the tactical displays, which showed an overwhelming disparity in military strength. It was hopeless. Humanity was being defeated by an enemy they had trusted for over 20 years. But we are not fighting conventionally, Athena said, as if reading her thought. The Prometheus was specifically designed to counter overwhelming numerical superiority. Dr. Webb studied every aspect of the Zapirian military doctrine and discovered their weaknesses. What weaknesses? They have 8,000 ships. They have never faced quantum-fold weapon. Their shields are designed to reflect energy beams and physical projectiles. They could not stop an attack that completely ignored normal space and time. Their tactics relied on formation fighting and coordinated maneuvering, disorienting them against an enemy that appeared and disappeared at will. Sarah looked around the bridge, taking in the incredible technology that surrounded her. You mean this one ship could take on their entire fleet? No, I'm saying it was designed to neutralize their entire fleet. If we acted quickly, we couldn't allow the Empire to expand around Terra. We had to attack while they were still gathering forces. Sarah's thoughts raced. She was only a captain in the Terra Defense Force, trained for patrol missions and diplomatic escorts. She had never commanded a ship larger than a light cruiser. Taking on the Empire's most powerful military force with an untested experimental ship seemed foolhardy. But they had no choice. The Empire had 72 hours to demand Earth's surrender. If humanity refused, millions would die unless someone took an impossible gamble on technology that had been gathering dust for over 20 years. Athena, can you contact Earth Command without the Empire detecting your transmission? Of course. The Prometheus uses quantum encryption, preventing the Empire from intercepting or deciphering it. Sarah took a deep breath and made up her mind. Open a channel to Admiral Rodriguez at Earth Command. Priority Alpha. The view screen switched to show the stern face of Admiral Maria Rodriguez, commander of Earth's military forces. As Sarah explained the situation, the Admiral's expression went from confusion to shock. Captain Chen, your explanation is impossible, Rodriguez said after hearing the story of the Prometheus and the Imperial betrayal. It's an experimental ship abandoned for 20 years. A weapon the Empire cannot defend against. Admiral, I'll forward you the intercepted transmission. Believe it or not, the Empire is mobilizing for an attack. They have less than 3 days to prepare. Rodriguez stared at the stream of data on the display. Her face hardened as she realized the scale of the threat, even if this ship was as powerful as you said it was. You're talking about one ship against 8,000 enemy ships. That's still a better chance than destroying our current fleet. Sarah interjected. Admiral, if you'll excuse me, this is our only chance. Dr. Webb designed the Prometheus specifically for this scenario. We have no choice but to try it. There was a long silence as Rodriguez considered her options. Then finally she slowly nodded. Captain Chen, I'm urgently assuming command of the Prometheus. However, we need a crew. The ship is too large for one person to pilot. We need volunteers, Sarah. People who understand that this mission will likely be one way. I'm sure you can find some. We're looking for an experienced officer willing to take the ultimate risk for Earth's survival. But Captain, are you sure? Once we leave the shipyards, there's no turning back. Sarah looked around the Prometheus's bridge, feeling the ship's systems humming with barely contained power. Somewhere out in space, a massive Imperial Armada was preparing to destroy everything she ever held dear. Her family on Earth, her friends in the fleet, and the millions of innocent people who had no idea what was about to happen. I know you will, Admiral. Send your best men. You will need them. The message ended, and Sarah sat back in the captain's chair aboard mankind's most powerful warship. In less than 3 days, she would either save Earth or die trying. But at least she wouldn't go down without a fight. The Prometheus was about to teach the galaxy that humanity should never be underestimated. The emergency meeting at Earth Command had been going on for 6 hours. Admiral Rodriguez stood at the head of the conference table, watching as the highest-ranking officers of the human military struggled to come to terms with the difficult situation they found themselves in. The intelligence has been confirmed, she announced to the packed audience of admirals, generals, and defense ministers. The Zapirian Empire has been lying to us for over 20 years. Their so-called peace treaty was nothing more than a means to keep us calm while they prepared for their invasion. Minister Jackson slammed his hand on the table. This is not right. We have trade agreements with them. We have cultural exchange programs. We have Zapirian diplomats living on Earth right now. It's all part of their plan, Rodriguez replied grimly. They've studied us, learned our weaknesses, and are developing defenses. The diplomats were likely spies gathering intelligence for an invasion. General Morrison, commander of the Mars Defense Forces, leaned forward. What's the timeline? How much time do we have? Captain Chen's intel indicates the Empire will arrive on Earth within 48 hours. They will demand our immediate surrender. If we refuse, they will destroy the Mars colony as a demonstration. The room was silent. Everyone present knew what that meant. The Mars colony was home to over 2 million civilians, including the families of many in the room. What choice do we have? Asked Admiral Park, commander of the Outer Systems Fleet. Rodriguez activated the main display, displaying a tactical overview of humanity's military assets. 2093 ships deployed throughout the solar system. Most were patrol craft, exploration vessels, and minimally armed cargo transports. Our strongest warships were 12 heavy cruisers and 3 experimental battleships. How many enemy ships? Among them were capital ships with 10 times the firepower of our heaviest ships. The numbers hung in the air like a death sentence. Even if all of humanity's ships fought perfectly, they would still be outnumbered 30-1 by a technologically superior enemy. Minister Jackson buried his face in his hands. We need an evacuation. Get as many people off Earth as possible before they arrive. Where? General Morrison demanded. They control a large part of the galaxy. There was no escape, so we surrendered, Jackson said quietly. We will negotiate the best terms we can and hope for mercy. The Empire shows no mercy. Rodriguez replied. Their usual tactic is total submission. If we were in our solar system, humanity would be enslaved. The room erupted in argument as the desperate situation became increasingly clear. Some called for evacuation. Others called for a desperate last stand. Still others sought to put an end to the obviously futile negotiations. Rodriguez allowed a few minutes of debate, then called for order. There's one more option, she said, quieting the room. Project Prometheus. Admiral Park frowned. I've never heard of Project Prometheus. It was top secret beyond top secret. Only a handful knew of its existence. 23 years ago, when relations with the Empire first became strained, we began work on a new kind of warship, one that could fight on principles the Empire had never before encountered. Rodriguez activated a new display that showed the Prometheus's sleek, predatory form. The ship was complete, but never deployed. Once diplomatic relations improved, the plan was shelved and forgotten. General Morrison shook his head. Admiral, I understand our desperation, but one ship cannot take on 8. This is no ordinary ship, Rodriguez explained. It is a ship designed by Dr. Marcus Webb using technology at the edge of human comprehension. Quantum folding weaponry, adaptive AI, dimensional shields. The Empire had never faced anything like this before. Minister Jackson looked skeptical. If the ship was so powerful, why was it abandoned? Because it was deemed too dangerous. The weapon systems were untested and potentially unstable. The AI was so advanced that some scientists feared it might get out of control, and the ship's design was deemed too aggressive for peacetime. But these were no longer peacetimes, Admiral Park pointed out. And he was right. Captain Sarah Chen was already in command of the Prometheus, and was calling for volunteers for what was essentially a suicidal mission. The room fell silent again as the implications dawned on her. They were sending a single experimental ship, with an inexperienced crew against the greatest military force the galaxy had ever known. What are our chances? General Morrison asked. Rodriguez looked him in the eye. We don't know. This ship has never been tested in combat, but this is our only chance. For the next 18 hours, word of this deadly mission spread quietly throughout the Earth Defense Force. Captain Chen needed a crew of 50 experts to pilot this massive ship. All volunteers, all understood the risk. The response was astonishing. Within 12 hours, over 2,000 officers had volunteered. Pilots, engineers, weapons specialists, communications experts, and the best and brightest in the fleet stepped forward to pilot this ship, humanity's last hope. Lieutenant Commander James Park was the first to arrive at Shipyard Station 7. He had served as a weapons officer on 3 ships, and volunteered as soon as he heard about the assignment. As he drifted through the hallways of the abandoned station, he wondered what kind of ship could stand up to the Imperial Armada. The moment he saw the Prometheus, his doubts vanished. The ship was unlike any other in human space. It was as if it had been designed by someone who understood war on a level humanity had never before reached. Isn't it incredible? He heard Captain Chen's voice from behind him. She had just arrived with the second wave of volunteers. Captain, I've never seen a ship like this. That weapons What kind of gun does it have? According to the technical specifications, it's a quantum fold cannon. It doesn't fire bullets or energy beams. It blows holes in space itself. Lieutenant Commander Park peered at the ship's weapons system. How is that even possible? Dr. Webb seemed to wonder. We'd find out soon. More volunteers arrived that day. Sofia Martinez, the chief engineer who designed the propulsion systems for the latest human ships. David Kim, the navigator who had surveyed more star systems than any other human pilot. And Lisa Thompson, a medical officer who had served on the front lines in skirmishes with real pirates on the border. Each new crew member brought with them skills essential to piloting the Prometheus, but also questions and anxieties about what they were getting themselves into. When Captain Chen gave the crew their first tour of the ship, their situation became clear. The Prometheus was vast and complex, filled with systems that seemed more like alien relics than human technology. As everyone gathered on the bridge, Chen explained that the ship's computer was an artificial intelligence named Athena. She wasn't just a program. According to Dr. Webb's notes, she was a new form of consciousness that existed partly in quantum space. The AI's voice echoed across the bridge, warm yet somehow otherworldly. Welcome aboard, everyone. We have been preparing for this mission for 23 years. We are ready to partner with you in the battle to come. Captain Martinez raised his hand. Captain, I have studied the engine specification. The power output is unlike anything I have ever seen before. How on earth did you manage to build a ship like this? Dr. Chen replied that Webb had access to theoretical research decades ahead of his time. He was pushing the boundaries of human science to the very limit. We'll see, Chen said, whether his theories hold up in practice. The crew spent the next 24 hours familiarizing themselves with their stations. The learning curve was steep. All of the Prometheus systems operated on principles that defied conventional wisdom, with its weapons systems being the most complex of all. Instead of conventional energy cannons and missile launchers, they contained devices capable of manipulating space-time itself. The quantum fold cannon could, in theory, bypass all known shields by attacking targets through fold space. The defensive systems were similarly innovative. Instead of traditional armor and shields, the Prometheus employed a system called dimensional phasing. By partially displacing the ship from normal space-time, it allowed incoming attacks to pass harmlessly through it. But the most impressive system was Athena herself. The AI was able to process information and make decisions faster than a human crew could. It could analyze enemy tactics and adapt to counter them, simultaneously adjusting the ship's weapons, defenses, and movements. With the final minutes before departure quickly approaching, Captain Chen gathered the crew for a final briefing. The main screen displayed a tactical map of the solar system, with a red marker indicating the approaching Zapirian fleet. Ladies and gentlemen, Chen began. A major Imperial fleet will arrive at Earth in 6 hours. They were preparing to conquer it, expecting to find an undefended planet, but instead they will find Prometheus. She pointed to a display showing the expected battle area. Engagement will take place at the edge of the system, near the orbit of Neptune. Our mission is simple. Destroy or disable as many enemy ships as possible before they reach Earth. Lieutenant Commander Park spoke up. Captain, even with our most advanced weaponry, how can a single ship possibly fight 8,000 enemy ships? Chen chuckled. We don't fight conventionally. The Empire expects us to form battle lines and exchange fire like civilized people. Instead, they plan to strike powerfully and quickly, using tactics they've never seen before. What tactics? Navigator Kim asked. Athena will launch quantum doubling attacks on multiple targets simultaneously, using dimensional phase control to appear and disappear unpredictably. It would turn numerical superiority into weakness, crowding them out and hindering effective maneuvering. Captain Martinez frowned. This sounds great in theory, Captain, but what if the ship's systems don't work as advertised? What if Dr. Webb's theory is wrong? Chen looked around at his crew, 150 volunteers who had risked everything for Earth's survival. Then we'll die fighting. But at least it would show the Empire that humanity would not give in easily. As the Prometheus started its engines for the first time in over 20 years, Earth Command sent a final message to the ship. The voices of Captain Chen and Admiral Rodriguez came over the quantum communicator. The Empire has just sent an ultimatum. Earth must surrender unconditionally within 12 hours or an attack on the Mars colony will be launched. Understood, Admiral. We will intercept. Good luck, Sarah. Earth is counting on you. The signal went dead and silence fell on the bridge. Through the viewport, the crew could see Jupiter shrinking behind them as the Prometheus accelerated toward the outer planetary system. Captain Chen sat in the command chair and activated the ship's combat systems around them. The crew took up positions in stations no one had ever operated before. Athena, how far to intercept? 4 hours, 37 minutes. Captain, our long-range sensors have detected an Imperial fleet. They are maintaining formation and heading straight for Earth. Any indication they have detected us? No, the dimensional shield is functioning perfectly. To their sensors, we are nothing more than background cosmic radiation. Chen nodded. The Empire was about to get the surprise of its lifetime. Expecting to face a helpless planet defended by primitive technology, they instead found themselves facing the most advanced warship humanity had ever known. Piloted by volunteers with nothing to lose, within 5 hours, the Prometheus must either save Earth or perish in the attempt. Either way, the galaxy will discover that humanity is a much greater threat than they could have imagined. Grand Admiral Vexar stood on the command deck of the Imperial flagship, Dominion's Edge, watching the stars slowly shift as the vast fleet moved through space. At over 3 kilometers long, the flagship was one of the largest ships the Zapirian Empire had ever constructed. Around it, 8,000 ships of all sizes sailed in perfect formation, a display of military might never before seen in the galaxy. Vexter was ancient by human standards, having lived for over 4 centuries. His pale blue skin bore the ceremonial scars of countless victorious campaigns, and his forearms wore the ceremonial armor of the Empire's highest military rank. He had conquered 17 races over his long career, adding their worlds to the Empire's ever-expanding territory. Today was to be his greatest victory. Conquering Terra would complete the Empire's dominance in this spiral arm of the galaxy. More importantly, it would prove once and for all that the Empire's strategy of patient deception and misdirection was superior to outright warfare. Situation report, Vexar commanded, his voice carrying the dignity of one who had never known defeat. Commander Zitel, the tactical chief, activated a holographic display showing the fleet's location. 6 hours from the Terran system. Grand Admiral, all ships report ready for battle. Vexar reviewed the tactical information with satisfaction. The fleet was arrayed in a perfect spherical formation, with the heaviest dreadnoughts in the center and smaller ships surrounding them like a protective shell. The formation was designed to crush any resistance with overwhelming force. Has the humans responded to our ultimatum? Vexar, they are requesting additional time to consider surrendering. Zitel replied. A classic delaying tactic. They might be attempting to evacuate their leaders or hide their most valuable resources. Vexar clicked his jaw in amusement. Let them try. There is no place in this system where they can hide from us. We will demonstrate our strength by destroying the Martian colonies, and they will understand the futility of resistance. The Grand Admiral moved to the observation deck and took in the magnificent sight of the fleet. Each ship represented the pinnacle of Zarian military engineering. Plasma cannons powerful enough to melt asteroids, quantum shields repelling every known weapon, and faster-than-light communications allowing flawless coordination over vast distances. But most important of all was numbers. 8,000 ships compared to Earth's fleet of fewer than 3. Humanity had spent the past 20 years building exploration ships and freighters. Meanwhile, The Empire was building the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. "Greetings, Admiral," came the voice of Intelligence Coordinator Nexro. "Our undercover agents on Terra have informed us that the human government is in complete panic. Their military leaders were debating whether to fight or surrender." As expected, Vexar replied. 23 years of peaceful hostilities had weakened them. They had forgotten that the galaxy was a dangerous place for weaker species. The Intelligence Coordinator paused, then continued. "There was just one anomaly in their transmission. There was mention of something called Project Prometheus, but our operatives couldn't pinpoint what that referred to." Vexar dismissed the concerns with a wave of his hand. "Humanity's despair. Perhaps they were plotting a futile act of defiance. Perhaps they were planning to ram our ship, as the primitives had done." On the bridge, a tactical display showed details of Earth's defenses. Humanity possessed 12 heavy cruisers that posed a modest threat to Imperial destroyers. Orbital defense platforms were equipped with kinetic energy weapons that were nearly invulnerable to Imperial armor. Ground defense systems were laughably primitive. The only unknowns were 3 experimental Terran battleships. Although Imperial intelligence had detailed specifications for these vessels, they were armed with fusion cannons and particle beams, powerful by human standards but centuries behind Imperial technology. "Begin preparations for final approach," Vexar ordered. "All ships, load main guns and prepare for battle. Finish this quickly." As the fleet advanced deeper into Earth's solar system, the High Admiral reflected on the operations that had led them to this moment. The Empire's strategy had been brilliant. After initial contact, they had chosen patience and deception rather than launch an immediate invasion. The peace treaty had served multiple purposes. It had kept humanity calm and unprepared. While the Empire deployed its military forces across the galaxy, it also allowed Imperial scientists to study human technology and biology, and most importantly, it convinced Earth's leaders that the Empire was trustworthy, particularly through cultural exchange programs. Zapirian diplomats and scholars on Earth provided detailed information on human psychology, military power and social structure. They identified key leaders to target and mapped the locations of important installations. Meanwhile, the Empire used 23 years of peace to build the largest military force in its history. Entire sectors were converted to producing warships, new weapons were being developed to fight humanity, and tactics were being refined through countless simulations. Humanity had no idea what was coming. Their intelligence agencies were primitive compared to the Empire's capabilities. There was no spy network within Imperial territory. They had complete confidence in the goodwill of their Zapirian friend. The Zitel Admiral Commander announced, "We have reached the outer edge of the human solar system. Sensors detect minimal defensive activity. No noticeable fleet movement." Vexthora nodded in agreement. Humanity was behaving exactly as predicted. They likely preferred negotiation or surrender without fighting. Some species would rather die than suffer dishonor. But humanity has always proven itself to be pragmatic. "Broadcast a final ultimatum," he ordered. "Give them one last chance to surrender peacefully." A transmission was sent across all frequencies of the galaxy's most powerful communications array. The message was brief and categorical. Earth had 1 hour to surrender unconditionally or face utter destruction. Vexthora had expected Earth's response to be either an immediate surrender or a desperate plea for more time. What he didn't expect was silence. For 30 minutes Earth remained completely silent. The loss of contact puzzled Imperial command. Conquered species usually begged for mercy or hurled defiant insults. This complete silence was unusual. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we have a transmission from Terran command." "Connect," Vexthora ordered. The main screen came on, revealing the face of a human woman in military uniform. Despite facing the threat of annihilation for her entire species, she remained calm, collected, almost serene. "I am Admiral Maria Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force," the human said. "I accept and reject your ultimatum. I will not bow to liars and murderers." Vexthora clicked his jaw in amusement. Bold words from someone facing death. "You have seen our fleet. You know we cannot win." "Your fleet is confirmed," Rodriguez agreed. 8,000 ships. Impressive. "But you made one grave mistake." "What mistake?" "You assumed we were defenseless." Communications suddenly cut out, and a bewildered silence fell on the Imperial bridge. Commander Zatel turned to his sensors. "Commander, we have detected a human vessel approaching us. It's a small ship, probably a scout or transport." "One," Vexthora laughed. "The humans are sending one ship against our entire fleet." "Are you crazy?" the sensor operator reported. "Apparently an outdated design. Configuration unknown. No visible signs of weaponry." Vexthora stared at the tactical display, which showed a single human ship moving towards the fleet. It was almost insulting. Did they really think one ship could stand against 8,000? Perhaps it was a messenger ship, Commander Zettel suggested. Perhaps it was a formal surrender. Or perhaps it was a suicide attack, Intelligence Coordinator Nexor added. Humans were known for exaggerating. Vexora considered various possibilities. Whatever their intentions, no single ship could threaten his fleet. Even if the humans were loaded with explosives, they would have to penetrate the defensive fire of hundreds of escort ships. He decided it was best to let them close. If it was a messenger, it would bring word of surrender. If it was an attack, it would be destroyed long before it reached them. Either way, it made no difference. The Imperial fleet maintained formation as a lone human ship approached. Weapons officers tracked its approach with mere interest, ready to vaporize it at any sign of hostility. On the bridge of Dominion's edge, tactical displays provided detailed information about the approaching ship. It was larger than initially thought, perhaps 300 meters in length. Its design was unusual, sleek and predatory, unlike the blocky structures common to human ships. We've still not received a response to our calls, the communications officer reported. They're maintaining a strict communications embargo. Never mind, Vexora said dismissively. Whatever they are up to, it is too late. Signal all ships to prepare for destruction of Earth. We will deal with this lone ship after the Resistance has presented its case. The High Admiral has turned his attention to a more important matter, coordinating an attack on Mars, a colony that will be a show of Imperial power. One ship against humanity had lost its mind if it thought it would accomplish anything. But as the Imperial fleet prepared to show Earth the futility of resistance, no one noticed the quantum distortion surrounding the approaching Their sensors could not detect the dimensional phase generators charging to full power. Their tactical computers could not recognize the threat of weapons beyond their comprehension. For 23 years the Empire had been preparing for war with humanity, but they had prepared for a battle with the humanity they thought they knew, a primitive species with limited technology and predictable tactics. Little did they know they were about to face something that would upend everything they knew about war. A ship approaching their fleet was about to prove that humanity's greatest strength lies in its ability to think in ways no one could have anticipated. Admiral Vexora was coming to understand that sometimes one ship was enough. Captain Sarah Chen sat in the command seat of the Prometheus, gazing out at the vast Imperial fleet on the main view screen. 8,000 ships, aligned in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with awe-inspiring beauty. The pinnacle of advanced military engineering. It was the largest fleet in the history of the galaxy, and they were about to learn what human ingenuity could achieve when pushed to its limits. How far are we to target? Chen asked quietly. Navigator Kim reported back. We're within sensor range, but the dimensional shields are down. They still see us as background radiation. Chief Engineer Martinez looked up from his console. Captain, all systems green. The quantum folding cannon was loaded and ready. The dimensional phase generator was at full power. Chen nodded, feeling the weight of Earth's survival weigh on his shoulders. The crew of the Prometheus worked calmly and efficiently, knowing they were entering a situation that would surely lead to death. Athena's tactical assessment. The AI's voice boomed across the bridge, warm yet with an undeniable strength. The Imperial fleet was in standard formation. Shields were up, weapons were loaded, but they didn't seem to perceive us as a threat. Tactical computers were calibrated for conventional warfare. Perfect. This would create a surprise effect. Lieutenant Commander Park called from the weapons station. Captain, I've studied the targeting data. Even though we have advanced weapons, 8,000 ships is too many. Cheng turned to the weapons officer. James, what's the first rule of asymmetric warfare? Don't fight the enemy's battles. Lieutenant Commander Park replied. Force them to fight. That's right. We won't be firing side by side. We will attack with force, with speed, and in ways that cannot be predicted or countered. The tactical display displayed the Imperial fleet in perfect detail. Their vast formations were works of art, thousands of ships moving in perfect coordination. Their weapons were poised to unleash planet-shattering firepower, but Captain Chen saw something else in their perfect formation, a weakness that Webb had identified when he designed the Prometheus 23 years earlier. The Empire fights with overwhelming force and perfect coordination, she told her crew. Their military doctrine is based on using superior numbers and firepower to quickly crush resistance. But that doctrine is fatally flawed. What flaw? Thompson asked. They've never faced an enemy that doesn't play by their rules. They expect lines and formations to fight. They expect conventional weapons and predictable tactics. They had no idea how to respond to something they didn't understand. Chen activated the ship's communications system. Attention all, this is Captain. In approximately 10 minutes we will be engaging the greatest military force in the history of the galaxy. Our mission is simple. Defend Earth by any means necessary. She paused, glancing around at the crew. They volunteered for what everyone considered a suicidal mission, leaving behind family and friends to stand between Earth and destruction. The Empire thinks we are powerless. Chen continued. They think 23 years of peace have weakened us. They are now realizing that humanity's greatest strength has always been its ability to adapt and innovate. Today we will show them what happens when they threaten what we hold dear. Communications went dead, and silence fell on the bridge. The main screen showed the Imperial fleet steadily approaching Terra, completely unaware of the weapons barreling towards us from the folded void. 5 minutes to optimal range, Athena announced. Imperial sensors still failed to register our true nature. Chen took one last good look at the tactical display. The plan was simple yet elegant. Prometheus would use quantum folding cannons to attack multiple targets simultaneously, while dimensional phase control would ward off counterattack. It will cause confusion in Imperial formations, forcing the enemy fleets to break ranks and engage individually rather than as a coordinated fleet. All stations report readiness. Commander Martinez announces that the ship's performance exceeds theoretical specifications. Dr. Webb's designs are more advanced than his notes indicated. Lieutenant Commander Park reports that weapons are operational. Quantum fold targeting system locked on primary target. Dimensional generator operating at full power. Officer Kim, we are ready to commence the phase as ordered. Chen took a deep breath and activated ambient command override. The bridge hummed with energy as the system, 23 years in the making, finally came online. Athena, I will leave tactical control to you. Execute attack pattern web alpha. The AI responded instant. Attack pattern web alpha recognized. The attack began. What happened next upended everything the Empire thought it knew about the war. As the dimensional phase generator activated, the Prometheus appeared to split into multiple images. To Imperial sensors, a single human ship suddenly appeared to be attacking from dozens of different points simultaneously. Space itself shrieked as the quantum folding cannon fired its first volley. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, the weapon created rifts in the fabric of space-time. These rifts appeared directly inside the hulls of Imperial ships, completely ignoring shields and armor. The rifts lasted only a few microseconds, but were enough to devastatingly disrupt the molecular structure of anything they came into contact with. The Imperial Dreadnought's eternal glory was snuffed out as quantum folding pierced its reactor core. One moment it stood as a 3-kilometer-long beacon of Imperial technological might. The next it was reduced to an expanding cloud of superheated gas. The first volley sank 12 other Imperial ships, their crews unaware they were under attack. The quantum weapon struck faster than the speed of light, giving no warning or opportunity for defense. On the bridge at the edge of the Dominion, confusion reigned as tactical displays showed impossible readings. What the hell happened? Admiral Vexar demanded. Where did that ship go? Commander Zattel stared at the gauges in disbelief. Commander, 13 ships have vanished. Complete loss of contact. Vanished? Ships can't just vanish. What attacked them? We don't know, Commander. Our sensors are showing multiple contact points around the human ship, but the numbers don't make sense. It's like we're in several places at once. Before Vexar could react, a second wave of attack began. The Prometheus traveled through normal space-time, appearing and disappearing seemingly at random. Each time it materialized, its onboard quantum fold cannons unleashed a devastating volley that ignored all Imperial defenses. As panic spread throughout the fleet, the Imperial fleet began to break formation. The captains, never before faced with an enemy they did not understand, began to act independently, destroying the Empire's greatest strength, perfect coordination. All ships maintained formation. Vexars desperately communicated, concentrating fire on multiple contact points. But the Empire's weaponry failed to hit targets not entirely within conventional space. The Prometheus's plasma cannons and particle beams passed harmlessly through the Prometheus's phasic projection, while the real ships continued their devastating attacks. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Chen watched as the plan unfolded according to Dr. Webb's vision. Athena, status report. First attack phase complete, the AI replied with a note of satisfaction. 47 Imperial ships destroyed. No damage to the Prometheus. The enemy fleet is disengaging as planned. Lieutenant Commander Park looked up from his weapons console in amazement. Captain, this quantum fold weapon is incredible. It can strike faster than the enemy can even detect it. That's the genius of Dr. Webb's design. Chen explained. The Empire has spent centuries honing its defenses against conventional weaponry, but an attack from outside normal space-time is unimaginable. Commander Martinez reported excitedly, as he monitored the ship's system. "Captain, the dimensional generator is operating at 112% of its theoretical capacity. This ship is performing beyond our wildest dreams. Tactical displays show the once perfect Imperial formation crumbling into chaos. Ships are scattering in all directions, and commanders are desperately trying to understand what they're fighting." At the start of the second attack phase, Athena announced the implementation of the pattern web beta. The Prometheus suddenly broke through the Imperial fleet's outer defensive shell and appeared in the center of the fleet. For a moment, the Prometheus appeared completely in normal space. All weapons fired simultaneously. 50 quantum fold cannons created a rift in space around the ship. Imperial ships within 1,000 kilometers were destroyed at a molecular level. The devastating attack lasted only seconds before Prometheus phased out again, leaving behind an expanding sphere of destruction. Grand Admiral Vexar watched in horror as over 100 ships vanished. "How could this happen?" he whispered. "What kind of weaponry could do this?" Commander Zatel reported in a trembling voice. "We have lost contact with over 200 ships. The human ships appear to be using technology we have never encountered before." Vexthor couldn't believe what he was hearing against a single enemy ship. The tactical display revealed a devastating truth. The greatest military force in the history of the galaxy, the Grand Armada, had been systematically annihilated by a single human ship, using weapons that should never have existed. But the worst part wasn't the loss, it was the feeling of utter helplessness. The Empire's most advanced weaponry couldn't even hit its target. The strongest shields offered no protection whatsoever. The perfect formations were powerless against an enemy that could appear anywhere at any moment. For the first time in his 4 centuries of military service, Admiral Vexar faced an enemy he could neither understand nor defeat. He frantically ordered his entire fleet. "Retreat to the minimum safe distance. Prepare for long-range artillery fire." But even as the Imperial fleet attempted to retreat, the Prometheus pursued them through the folded space. Human ships appeared and disappeared at will, striking at the weakest points of the Imperial defenses, wiping out dozens of Imperial ships with each attack. Quantum weapons sliced through the fleet like an invisible wall, destroying Imperial ships faster than their crews could react. From the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Chen watched as the Empire's greatest military force slowly crumbled under his ship's relentless attack. "Athena, how many Imperial ships remain operational?" 7,231, Captain. But morale was falling. Many ships were attempting to retreat despite orders to maintain the status quo. Chen nodded grimly. The battle was far from over, but the Empire had learned a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity. Webb's prediction was correct. Sometimes the best defense is a devastating attack that demoralizes the enemy. "Continue the attack," she ordered. "Show them what happens when you threaten Earth." The Prometheus phased back to normal space, ready for another devastating attack. The quantum fold cannon was about to remind the galaxy that humanity was a far greater threat than they had ever imagined. The Imperial flagship Dominion's edge trembled as another quantum fold cannon strike struck a nearby heavy cruiser. Brutal victory. Admiral Vexar held the command rail with both hands and watched as his magnificent fleet was systematically destroyed by a single human ship that seemed partially detached from reality. 3 hours after the start of the battle, the fleet had dwindled from 8,000 ships to less than. Survivors were scattered across the vast expanse of space. Perfect formations had crumbled in panic and confusion. Many ships were attempting to flee despite direct orders to maintain their positions. Vexar stopped shouting orders that seemed to have no effect and managed to speak. Commander Zactel's face was pale with shock. "Commander, we have lost over 4,000 ships. Human ships continue to attack with weaponry we cannot counter or understand. Our plasma cannons will not hit targets that move in or out of normal space. What about concentrated artillery fire?" Vexar asked desperately. "Is it possible to saturate an area with enough firepower to attack despite phasing?" "We tried, Commander. The ship appeared right behind our artillery formation and destroyed 60 ships in a single hit. It was like fighting ghosts that could kill us, but couldn't kill us back." On the main tactical display, Prometheus appeared as multiple contact points scattered throughout the Imperial formation. Each contact point was capable of simultaneously existing in both reality and unreality, existing in multiple places at once, thanks to dimensional phase control technology. As they watched, Prometheus materialize directly in front of the Imperial battle group. Its onboard quantum fold cannons fired, and a spatial rift ripped through 15 ships in a matter of seconds. Before the surviving ships could retaliate, the Prometheus vanished again. "How many ships did that one ship destroy?" Vexar asked quietly. "Over 4,000 confirmed kills. No confirmed damage to any human ships." 4,000. An entire Imperial sector fleet was wiped out by a single enemy ship. The scale of the devastation was unparalleled in Imperial military history. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we have received requests from several captains to surrender. They are requesting permission to withdraw from the battle zone." Vexar's jaw clenched in anger. "You will not be allowed to withdraw. We are a vast fleet. We will not withdraw from even one enemy ship." But before he could give the order, more Imperial ships were withdrawing from the battle, their captains fleeing in terror at an enemy they could not comprehend. The Prometheus reappeared, this time directly above the Imperial flagship. Captain Chen's voice came over the comms system, clear and calm despite the destruction around the ship. "Greetings, Admiral Vexar," she said. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has been defeated. I will grant you one chance to surrender before I destroy your flagship." Vexar activated the reply channel, its forearms trembling with rage. "Do you think you can take down an entire empire with one ship? Even if you destroy this fleet, there are others who can take you." "That is correct," Chen replied. "There are other Imperial fleets out there, but by the end of today they will know what happened here. Humanity is not the helpless species you thought it was." "Who are you?" Vexar demanded. "What kind of weapon is this? It defies all laws of physics, defies your understanding of physics," Chen corrected. "Dr. Webb designed these systems 23 years ago when your empire first threatened us. We could have built a fleet like the Prometheus, but we chose not to. We hoped for peace." There was a brief pause in communication and Chen continued. "You gave us a choice between peace and survival, and we chose survival." A new wave of quantum harmonics washed over the remaining Imperial battle groups. The weapon ripped a rift through space itself, breaching every Imperial defense. Ships that had seemed invincible only moments before were now gone. "Surrender now," Chen's voice rang out again. "We will send the surviving ships home. If you continue to fight, we will destroy every ship in your fleet." Grand Admiral Vexar looked around the bridge, scanning the faces of his crew. These were veteran officers who had conquered dozens of worlds. Now they watched in helpless horror as the Empire's greatest military force was annihilated by technology they could not understand. Commander Zakdales said quietly, "Perhaps we have the option of never giving up again." Vexar roared. "The Empire will not bow to an inferior race." He turned to his weapons officer. "Hit that ship with all your might, with all your firepower." Dominion's Edge and the remaining Imperial ships opened fire with every weapon they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, quantum torpedoes, and fusion missiles filled the space with a terrifying energy. But the Prometheus was easily phased out of normal spacetime and the massive barrage passed harmlessly through its original location. The ship reappeared behind the Imperial flagship, its quantum fold cannons hitting the edge of the Dominion. This was their last chance. Captain Chen's voice came over the comms system. Vexar closed his eyes and felt the weight of 4 centuries of military experience wash over him. He had never lost a battle. He had never retreated, but he had never faced an enemy like this. "All ships," he ordered quietly over the comms system. "Cease firing, stand by." The order sent shockwaves through the remnants of the fleet. Imperial fleets across the theater shut down their weapons and raised flags of surrender. "A wise decision," Captain Chen replied. "They have 30 minutes to assemble their remaining ships and begin their evacuation from the system, by which time all remaining Imperial vessels in human space will be destroyed." As the remnants of the fleet begin their withdrawal, news of the battle spread across the galaxy at speeds faster than the speed of light. The impossible had happened. The Empire's greatest military force had been defeated by a single human ship. On Earth, Admiral Rodriguez watched in amazement as the Imperial fleet slowly left the solar system. "Captain Chen," she communicated to Prometheus, "we are reading less than 3,000 Imperial ships in retreat. What about the other? They chose to fight rather than surrender." Chen replied simply, "Quantum fold weapons leave almost no debris behind. The magnitude of this victory is immeasurable. The Prometheus had destroyed over 5,000 enemy ships without suffering a single loss. It was the most one-sided battle in galactic history, but its impact extended far beyond the immediate tactical victory. Within hours, detailed reports of the battle were received by every major galaxy government. The Empire's reputation for invincibility was shattered along with its fleet. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Chen gave his final address to his crew. "Mission accomplished, everyone. Earth is safe, and the galaxy knows that humanity is not to be underestimated." Chief Engineer Martinez looked up from his display. "Captain, what will happen now?" "The Empire will seek revenge for this defeat." Chen smiled grimly. "Let them come." Dr. Webb had left detailed plans for building more ships like the Prometheus. If the Empire wants war, let them have a war they will never forget. AI Athena spoke up over the ship's communications system. Captain, we are monitoring the Galactic communications network. News of our victory is spreading rapidly. Several species conquered by the Empire are beginning to rebel. Good, Chen replied. Perhaps it's time for the galaxy to learn that bullies can be defeated. When the Prometheus returned to Earth, its crew looked at the stars with new eyes. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength lies not in military might or advanced technology, but in its ability to think outside conventional boundaries. Webb's vision was correct. The Empire was preparing for war against the humanity they thought they knew, a peaceful species with limited military might, when they encountered something that shook their fundamental understanding of war itself. The quantum fold weapon represented more than just advanced technology. It represented an entirely different approach to conflict, one that ignored rules the Empire assumed were universal. In the weeks that followed, the political implications of the battle became clear. Client species, sensing the potential defeat of the Imperial fleet, which had seemed invincible, began to declare independence. Trade routes previously controlled by Imperial forces were suddenly open to free navigation. The Zapirian Empire, which had ruled this region of the galaxy for over a millennia, was on the brink of total collapse. Their military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and intimidation. With that power weakening, their entire power structure began to crumble. Earth's government was faced with a choice. They were faced with the choice of using their demonstrated technological superiority to forge their own empire and replace Zapirian rule with human dominance, or using their victory to foster true peace and cooperation between their species. Captain Chen, who had been promoted to admiral and given command of the new Prometheus-class fleet, strongly advocated for the latter approach. We did not build these ships to conquer the galaxy, she told the Earth Council. It was built to protect Earth, to ensure it does not become exactly like what we fought against. The Council agreed. Earth will share its defense technology with other species, but only with those committed to peaceful cooperation. Quantum weapons will be used to defend the free world, not to build new empires. As Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus class, overseeing the start of construction on 12 new ships of the class, he reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, humanity was one of the weaker species in the galaxy, peaceful but powerless. Now they were recognized as a major power in the galaxy, and more importantly, they had proven that a peaceful species need not be powerless. Sometimes the greatest warriors are those who choose not to fight until they have no other choice. The galaxy learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a species that values peace so much that they prepare for war. Humanity's restraint was mistaken for weakness, but in fact it was their greatest strength. When Earth finally went to war, they did so with the knowledge and determination of a species that had tried every option first. The Empire had awakened a sleeping giant, and that giant had shown the galaxy that sometimes a single ship can change everything. The era of Imperial rule was over. An era of human-led galactic cooperation was about to begin.